Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Curry County's Zoom State and County Candidate Forum, the first of 4 scheduled this week. I am Georgia Nowlin, tonight's moderator. I'd like to introduce our voter service co-chairs, Charlie Alexander and Mary Jane LaBelle. Mary Jane will be co-hosting the Zoom along with League member Colleen Bunn. Charlie will be our timer. These forums will be recorded and be available on channel 182, currycountyvoices.com, lwvcurry.org, lwvor.org, and vote411.org via YouTube. Let me begin with the League of Women Voters mission statement. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose candidates running for elected office. Any voting person can be a member of the League of Women Voters. We have both men and women members and invite you to join. Because of COVID-19, this is a virtual candidate forum, a first for the League of Women Voters of Curry County. Our thanks to Paul Addis of Coos Bay Library and a fellow community website partner of mine for his assistance with Zoom. Candidates tonight for state are State Senate District Number 1, Dallas Hurd, incumbent, and Kat Stone. State Representative District Number 1, David Brock Smith, incumbent, and Calla Felicity. Curry County Commissioner, position number 2, Sue Gold, incumbent, and John Herzog. Curry County Clerk, Recorder, Renee Cullen, incumbent, and Emma DeRock. And for Curry County Treasurer, Terry Hanscom and Elizabeth Nikitin. All candidates running for these contested positions have been invited to the forum. Here are some ground rules for tonight's forum. Unless you are asked to speak, please keep yourself on mute. Candidates will be asked to speak in rotating order. Initial speakers have been determined by verbal number drawing. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for their opening statement. Once that portion is completed, we will go to the question and answer section of the forum. Questions have been collected from the public and League members prior to the forum. You will have 1.5 minutes to respond. Our timer, Charlie, will have Mary Jane put up a 30-second sign on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. When your time is up, a stop card will come on the screen. Candidates, can you see that, what Mary Jane's putting up? Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce the candidates. Candidate for State Senate District Number 1, Dallas Hurd. Dallas, can you take yourself off mute?
There we go. Can you hear me? Okay, so just to make sure, so it's time for my introduction. Okay, thank you. So to the citizens of Southwest Oregon and Senate District 1, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dallas Hurd, and I've been your servant in the state legislature since November of 2014. And it's been an amazing journey, a lot of work, a lot of difficult times for myself and my family in this community. The last couple of years, as I've been in the state Senate, have been particularly trying, but you know, it's had a lot of good moments too. 2020, as we all are caught up in, has been probably the craziest year that goes far beyond our wildest imaginations, and it always just kind of seems with every new week to bring a new twist and turn. The recent fires and economic crises that have been brought about have been particularly trying for our community. For those of you who aren't aware of it, I'm born and raised in Douglas County. My family's been here for a very long time, and so the roots run deep. And It's been a passion of mine since I was a young child to be a part of helping turn around this community. I long for the days of when we were in our glory days before the federal government shut down our forests. And really, it seems like at this point, for the folks east of the Mississippi, just about anything takes precedence over the well-being of our community, our economy, and our children. And so although the state government does not have a tremendous amount of impact on federal policy, it is always my mission to get up every single day when we're working in the legislative session to advocate for your future, for your economic prosperity. And that goes for all people of all races and creeds and backgrounds. I'm very much a libertarian at heart. I may be a registered Republican, but liberty is my primary focus, meaning the ability for you to exercise your freedoms and rights. If your rights are being protected, it doesn't matter what party you're affiliated or what background or way of life you come from, I'm for protecting your rights. And so with that said, I'll pass on the rest of my time to my opponent, but it's been a tremendous honor and privilege to serve you thus far, and I hope to earn your vote once more again.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hurd. All right, Kat Stone, you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My name is Kat Stone. I am a 65-year-old registered nurse who began following county politics in 2015. I have attended every week the Board of Commissioners of Douglas County for about 6 years now. I have a better attendance record than any of them. Because I was following Douglas County, our county commissioner said that we should watch Curry County to see what the future was going to be. And at that time, Curry County was in a lot of trouble financially. And I started watching the Curry County Commissioner TV videos. As time went on, I talked to a lot of people in a lot of different communities, and I found out that there was an event that happened in the 90s that didn't have anything to do with a bird that caused our communities to lose income. In fact, the bird only accounted for 25% of the loss of income to communities from timber, because private timber used to pay. They used to have property taxes. They got those property taxes cut 97%. They used to pay harvest severance tax. California has a harvest severance of 3.5%. Idaho has a harvest severance of 3.5%. Washington has a harvest severance of 5%. And that's set on an 80-20 arrangement where 20% of it goes to the state and 80% goes back to the communities. In the 1990s, the 1990 collection was the last time we collected a 6% harvest severance. And now we just have giant corporate entities that do not pay federal taxes and they don't pay state taxes, and they're operated by people that don't live in this state, and the money doesn't stay here, the logs don't stay here. The money goes straight out to Washington, New York, and across the globe. It is the 1% that operates these red lands that are on my map. Those are all corporate owned. And we are getting screwed in Southwestern Oregon. It doesn't work for us. This global organization doesn't work for Southwestern Oregon, and we need to fix it.
30 seconds.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For State Representative District Number 1, and I realize, Kala, that you just joined us recently. You have a first or second. David Brocksmith said you have your choice. Kala? Why don't you go ahead, David, Representative Smith, and do your presentation first.
Thank you, Georgia, and thank you to the league, and I appreciate all this effort to put forward a candidates forum in the middle of this trying time of COVID. And it's difficult for all of us to come together. It's been one of the most difficult times for me, not being able to communicate with the citizens that I work so passionately for in the legislature and around District 1, which, mind you, for those that don't know, runs from Charleston, kind of around Coos Bay and then back north and then east to West Roseburg, around Winston, down West I-5 to West Cape Junction to the California border, and then back over to Brookings Harbor. I'm a third generation resident of Southwest Oregon. I have spent many years in public service while I had a third generation family restaurant and lounge. Nearly 8 years on the Port Orford City Council, many of that which were City Council President, Chamber of Commerce President, Director, Port Orford Langley School Board. I had the pleasure to serve the citizens of Curry County as their Curry County Commissioner for 4 years, from 2013 to 2017. And those were trying times. But the past public service that I was able to enjoy allowed me, I believe, and I hope many of you, the opportunity to get an education, if you will, of the district and the public service involved. As a county commissioner, I was associated with the natural resources committees and the energy and environment committees. Was the District 4 chair through the Association of Oregon Counties, representing Curry, Coos, Douglas, and Josephine County, which ironically now as the state representative is my district as well. There's a lot of issues that the state is facing and our district is facing. And as the chair of the Oregon Legislative Bicameral Bipartisan Coastal Caucus for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, we've been addressing those issues. I'm not afraid to work for my people of my district rather than my party, if you will, as a Republican. And there's a number of examples for that. Thanks, Mary Jane.
3 seconds.
There's a number of examples of that in my legislative district. And so I look forward to the conversation tonight. I look forward to us talking about the work as we move forward and the difficulties that we have. And I want to thank again Mary Jane and Georgia for all your efforts in the league for putting this together.
Thank you, David.
Good timing.
Your timing is excellent. Okay, Kala, would you like to go ahead next, please?
Yes, is this the introductory session? I'm sorry that I'm late. I
Yes,
didn't get
this is
the
your
link.
3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get the link. My name is Calla Felicity, and I'm running for House District 1 against David Brocksmith, who's the incumbent Republican. I am 67 years old, and I've been a resident of Curry County for 4 years. I'm a very politically active person and have been active politically everywhere I've lived in my entire life. I moved here in 2016, not because of anything that was politically happening, but because that was the year that I retired from my successful small business in San Francisco, California. And my wife and my daughter moved with it. We moved together to our house, to our home in Brookings. We became very active politically very quickly because this is a rural area, much more readily accessed politically than urban areas, although we were also very active in urban areas that we've lived. I've lived in several places. I started out my life in Louisiana, which is, if you think of it as a contiguous part of the Louisiana Purchase, we started out in Louisiana and ended up the furthest west point of that purchase in Oregon. So I'm very glad to be here. I'm a rural person at heart. I come from rural, and I'm really looking forward to possibly representing our largely rural district in the House of Representatives. When I first arrived here, I became very concerned about the status of our representation. There was a gentleman named Cruz who was representing us in the Senate at that time, and his behavior was so egregious that he was dismissed. And I first met Mr. Brocksmith at the town hall that he gave with Mr. Cruz in 2017, January of 2017 in Brookings. And I haven't seen him at a town hall since. That concerns me. And it concerned me also that although Mr. Brocksmith talked about working across the aisle, he in fact has not done that. He's created what used to be an aisle to work across towards mutual strategies to achieve mutual goals, has become instead a crevasse. And this year he set it on fire because he left his job. So I'm very interested in working in a legislature that works, that sticks around and has the conversations that it needs to have to reach solutions or to reach strategies. All of them can't be solutions. You can't know. Okay, sorry. I didn't see the sign. Now I see the sign. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk more about what I would like to see, how I would like to represent the citizens of the District 1 in the House.
Technical issues. Thank you. All right, for Curry County Commissioner, position number 2, I'm going to have John Herzog.
All right. Can you see me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So my name is John Herzog. I'm 63 years old, soon to be 64. We moved to Brookings when I was 10 years old. So I've lived around here about 53 years. Met and married my high school sweetheart. And in March, we'll be celebrating 45 years of marriage. Raised 3 kids, have 4 grandkids, and just love Curry County. I did 30 years with UPS, 30 and a half years with UPS, and mainly to Mary Jane LaBelle's hometown of Port Orford Sixes. Every day I would drive there and deliver packages. And so I've learned the county from north to south and south to north. And when I used to have a memory, when I retired in 2012 and I had a memory, I knew pretty much every address from the state line to the Curry County border and just past Langlois. So just very concerned about our county, and have just this year is a perfect opportunity for me to run for a county commissioner, and I just want to say I appreciate your vote, and thank you, ladies, for putting this on.
Thank you. Sue Gold.
Hi, I'm Sue Gold, and I'm seeking the office of Commissioner again because I believe that I can bring a calm, reasoned, and common sense approach to the Commission at this time. I feel that this is needed to solve our current problems. As a lifelong problem solver, mathematics teacher, volunteer, and public servant, I think that my experience has been and will be a valuable asset to the Commission and our citizens. Some of the main things I've accomplished during my tenure are, as the liaison for CTR, I have negotiated lower rates of increases for individuals living in unincorporated areas, a 20% discount for old RVs filled with garbage left on county roads, and cleaning out homeless camps that were filled with garbage. I also negotiated a significant discount rate for the garbage at our county parks. This has amounted to thousands of dollars of savings for our county. I supported setting up a code enforcement department 2 years ago to clean up blighted properties in the county. So far, over 1,400 cases had been addressed. The Gold Beach Community Center lost their grant for providing Meals on Wheels, and I have helped in getting that grant renewed with Quebec to help our needy seniors in Gold Beach. A strategic plan for the county has been implemented. The Head Start building remodel in Brookings would not have happened without my vote. I was instrumental in getting more routes for Curry County Transit and secured the donation of 2 buses for the Homeless Coalition and the Gold Beach School District. As the liaison for schools and libraries, I have set up meetings for collaboration, encouraging community internships, and supporting dual credit courses. I have also been a very strong advocate for the libraries. I took on the challenge of honoring the county volunteer groups in April, which is Volunteer Month. Unfortunately, COVID interrupted this process. Our county could not function without our volunteers. Some of the things I would like to accomplish if elected are, I would continue working on a more stable sources of revenue for the county, expand and improve county parks. I would look at the best ways to implement more efficient and cost-effective uses of county resources, including getting property tax assessments up to date, which are currently 18 years behind, getting all county homes properly permitted. This would increase county revenue. Support the use of up-to-date software in departments to avoid costly mistakes. Make sure that replacement costs for equipment are included in departmental budgets. Work to get a contingency fund built in our budget. Emergencies do happen. And lastly, make decisions based on the strategic business plan. I thank the League for supporting and sponsoring this event, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Now, candidates for Curry County Clerk Recorder, Renee Cullen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. I'm Renee Cullen, Curry County Clerk. And since you first elected me in 1992, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve you. The county clerk is responsible for the elections and the recording division. The recording division is like a library of land records where we record your deed, mortgage and liens, honorable discharges, land partitions, just to name a few. We also maintain the record of the county governing body. We are passport agents. We issue death certificates, and we issue marriage licenses, and I can even marry you. When I first started in the county elections office in 1985, approximately 200 election board workers were needed to conduct polling place elections, and ballots were counted by hand. By 1988, we moved to automate the counting process, and we conducted our first election using optical scan ballots in September of 1989. About that same time, county clerks were finding that half of our voters were voting at the polls and the other half were voting absentee. We were conducting a polling place election and a vote by mail election at the same time, which was extremely challenging and expensive. In 1998, with the help of the League of Women Voters, the people placed the vote by mail issue on the November ballot, and it passed statewide with 70% in favor. Presidential elections at the polls usually garnered a 60% turnout. The 2000 presidential vote by mail election had an 80% statewide turnout. And in 2004 presidential election, Curry County had almost a 90% turnout. In 2005, I participated on a steering committee to help implement Oregon's statewide voter registration system, which allows elections officials to prevent someone from registering and voting multiple times in Oregon counties. In 2008, we upgraded our optical scan tabulation system to a digital system. Curry and Yamhill counties were the first in the state to make that change. In 2016, the Oregon Motor Voter Bill went into effect, which automatically registers voters. With Motor Voter, Curry County's voter registration climbed from over 14,000 to over 18,000. Today, we are still working hard to make the county clerk's office better for those who need our services. We stay on budget, we finish on time, and I'm proud to report that in a 2015 public survey, the county clerk's office scored higher than any other county department with an 82% approval rating. We are proud public servants. We are passionate about what we do. And in this election, don't vote for me for what I say I can do. Vote for me for what we've proven we can do. Thank you for your trust, and thank you, League, for hosting us tonight.
Thank you. All right, Emma DeRock.
Hello. I don't know what exactly is going on here after 4 Zoom meetings today. Apparently I have no video and my computer wants to restart. So there will be no video here. So yes, my name is Emma DeRock. I'm running for the office of Curry County Clerk. I have lived in Curry County for 4 years full-time now. I have My grandfather and family lives in Port Orford and has for decades, and I just love being in this area and couldn't wait to make it home. Since moving here, I was initially hired on with Oregon Department of Human Services, Department of Aging and People with Disabilities, and I was tasked with creating the Transition Diversion Program here in Curry County, which as a government employee means that I have to be very adept at understanding Oregon administrative rule, Oregon revised statute, being able to find and understand policies and procedures, implementations, being able to work with various members of the community to describe how those things work and break down to the simplest possible terms what the laws look like and what our requirements are. I definitely honed those skills in building from floor up a program here that serves the seniors of Curry County. I then went on to the private sector and got into nonprofit work where I built my second program here in Curry County, helping to find employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. And I have been successful at doing that to the point that we've created 14 jobs during COVID, which I'm pretty proud of because nothing else has gone well during the COVID thing. So my background is highly governed by rules, regulations, policies, procedures, all of the requirements that one would expect for a county clerk, being that the county clerk's position is heavily governed by Oregon administrative rule, specifically Chapter 205. But that is the outline of all of the requirements and necessary criteria for the county clerk to, oh, okay, we're there. All right. So over the last 4 years, I've watched the politics in this county pretty closely. And one thing I have noticed is that there are not a lot of candidates on the ballot. You generally have one choice, if any at all. So I have decided that it is a good time to run and allow for a choice in representation. Hopefully, with enough people getting interested, we can get a full ballot and people can truly elect representatives that are out for their best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for Curry County Treasurer, Terry Hanscom.
Good evening. My name is Terry Hanscom. I've been a lifelong resident of Curry County, except for college and military service. I'm 74 years old. Some people may think that's a little old, but I don't think it is. I seem to be doing all right. I first got on the county budget committee in 1979, as well as the county board of equalization. And I have worked on various boards and commissions for the county for many years. I was appointed to fill the unexpired term of a county commissioner in 1992. Then I ran and was elected as a county commissioner and served from 93 to 97. Then again, I was appointed back onto the county board of equalization, county budget committee, things like that. I've served on the I was elected to and served on the Coos Curry Electric Board of Directors from around 1991 to 2006. Again, I'm a lifelong resident of Curry County. I have been connected with Curry County off and on for many years. I believe the county, I was there when the county timber industry first started to go down and the county was looking at alternate ways to finance. I've been connected with the budgets for so many years. I can read them and understand them. I know where a lot of the county finances come from. I'm fiscally, I would say, a conservative in the fact that I think the county needs to be very careful how they spend their money, but they need to spend it to the best interests of the people of the county. That's about all I've got to say right now. I think thank the league for putting these things on, and I hope some people will enjoy them and understand what everybody's saying tonight. So thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, Elizabeth, and I'm sorry for butchering your name. I believe it is Nikita.
Yes. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Nikita, and I am running for Curry County Treasurer. I've been a bookkeeper for 35 years. I have extensive experience in accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, and finance. I have worked in many industries, including a CPA firm and a property management company. I am a third-generation Brookings resident. Every summer, I would come up to stay with my grandparents on the top of Payne Road in Harbor in the Little Red House. And I moved here several times over the years, permanently 7 years ago. My daughter is now 22 years old, and I have a grandson who's a year and a half, and they live in Medford. I enjoy volunteering locally. I assist the Checo Pelican Players with their annual haunted house. I am also an admin for Brookings Oregon Painted Rocks, and I assisted with handing out donations during the Checo Bar fire. I have previously volunteered for 9 years with several PTA boards in several positions, including treasurer. This included the San Mateo Foster City PTA, which served 20,000 children and families. And as you know, dealing with that many people and kids was a nightmare, but we handled it with ease. I led training classes and did almost weekly board meetings over the years. The two things I love most are numbers and giving back to the community, which is what led me to run for this position. When voting this year, I am asking all residents to vote for experience. The citizens of Curry County deserve to have someone in office that has a financial, accounting, and numbers background. Thank you to the League for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. So this ends the introductions, and we're going into the question and answer portion of the forum. Questions collected from the public and the League members have been screened by the Voter Service co-chairs for duplications only. Each candidate running for the same office will be given an opportunity to answer that question. We'll now present the questions that have been submitted for answers. Again, candidates, you have 1.5 minutes to respond. So I'm going to start with the candidates for the the state Senate and state representative positions. It seems like there's quite a few questions addressed to both the state level candidates. So we'll start, and I'll start with the state Senate candidates first. I'll start with you, Dallas, and this is the first question, and then we'll go to your opponent and have her answer at Kat, and then we'll go to David Brock-Smith and Cala Felicity. So that's the order to answer the first question. In light of the coronavirus pandemic, there will be some difficult budgetary choices for legislators going forward. What do you think should be the top budgetary priorities for the 2021 legislative session? Dallas?
Thank you, and thank you for the question. For me, it's really just kind of simple from a business person's perspective. You need to look for efficiencies first. I'm always troubled by candidates, or especially elected officials, whether they be city, county, state, or federal, that want to just take a hatchet and say, we're going to cut 5% across the board, or 10% across the board, or 1% across the board for that matter, across the respective agencies and budgetary items that they have in front of them. I would always look at it through a dynamic lens of efficiency. And so a lot of times you're finding with your state budget, especially with the imbalance of power that we have right now representing our government here in Oregon, we're not doing a great job of really combing through and doing zero-based budgeting and really demanding that our agency personnel come forward with the particulars and the details of why they need these budgets. Oftentimes they come in and just say, hey, here's our general presentation. And from sitting on Ways and Means, as I do, I'm very familiar with the fact that these presentations oftentimes are extremely confusing, even for those of us that have been in the legislature for several years and been a part of the budgetary process for those years. And so we really need to get back to saying, okay, build your budget, justify it from the beginning, explain it to us in great detail, and tell us why you need more personnel. Tell us why you need to increase these compensation rates, especially in a time of necessary budget cuts due to the COVID crisis. So at the end of the day, we've got to start having more detailed conversations with these folks. I would never ask. Okay, thank you. My time is up.
Okay. Kat?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I think that Dallas is essentially correct. I think that part of the problem is a word that he hasn't said, and that's transparency. That so many things are hidden in those very complicated discussions that are presented. And I've been watching on OLIS. I have been watching the presentations for unemployment and for the children's funding and for community colleges, and all of those things get flown by people. They just get flown by, and it's very hard to follow. And I don't know that they really give you enough information. So I think that we need to look at the budget. I haven't been there, but if I go there, I want to look at the budget and I want to understand it.
30 seconds.
I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. David?
Thank you, Georgia. Appreciate the conversation. In fact, just a week before last, we had the economic analysis forecast, which showed actually that we're 200 million above what we thought we were going to be pre-COVID, which was fantastic, and just shows that the recovery that's occurring in Oregon is there, and as well as the business community is still moving forward despite the governor's executive orders and the lockdowns. But those are larger businesses, and those are because of the corporate activities tax that the supermajority passed that is impacting those businesses. And so we don't know what's going to happen there. I will tell you that I've been long interested in shared services, where you have biologists within the Oregon Department of Agriculture and biologists within the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, which can share services. We have these silos within our individual departments. Thanks, Mary Jane. These silos within these individual departments where we, as when I was county commissioner, we had multitasking occurring amongst different departments because that's what's necessary when we have to tighten up within a government agency. And the state needs to do the same. And so one of the things that I am going to do, and I've already and currently drafting a bill to do, is given a tax credit to essential workers because they didn't get the unemployment benefits that the others did. We'll talk more later. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Kala?
Would you please repeat the question so that the audience will be aware of it?
Sure. In light of the coronavirus pandemic, there will be some difficult budgetary choices for legislators going forward. What do you think should be the top budgetary priorities for the 2021 legislative session?
Healthcare for all Oregonians is an important thing to consider. We have various federal programs that will be affecting, depending on who is the new president. We have several federal programs which may greatly affect how healthcare is received and delivered in Oregon. And healthcare for all Oregonians is an idea that the time is ripe for. If we have the political will to move that idea forward, we can increase our coverage of Oregonians so that we have no one falling through the cracks, and so that healthcare is available for all Oregonians. That is one of the things that we should be considering. Another thing that we should be considering is that this is not the time to step back from the climate crisis. As a matter of fact, recovery from the climate crisis could bring the economic boom that we need to experience here in Oregon, because we are in a state of recession and the recession appears to be getting worse. So, thank
30
you.
seconds.
Recession recovery through development of rural entrepreneurial small businesses, local small-scale manufacturing, farming, fishing, sustainable timbering, and tourism economies where family wage jobs are the norm, not the exception, and where unions help achieve economic success. We can build for the future now. We should take the option now to do that, and we can adjust the budget to include new
Time's up.
industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This question again is going to be for the state candidates, and we'll start with the House and go work back in order. So Calla, you will be the first, David Brocksmith will be second, and we're going to have Kat and then Dallas. So the question is, what steps will you take to ensure Oregonians who have been affected by the recent economic changes and layoffs will be able to find jobs and recover from what could be a potential recession?
I'm sorry, a what recession?
Potential.
Potential recession, thank you. We have, in the short term, we have economic realities for Oregonians who have lost jobs in industries that will not be recovering. So until or unless COVID and pandemic response moves into a place that the industries along the coast, especially in our district, which largely are seasonal, until those industries can recover, if they even do, the tourism industry, specifically the service industries, we will need to immediately address training and retraining and look for Oregon manufacturing at home. We need to put in place, I would advocate that we put in place a system of, again, small businesses, redistribution centers. We need to move toward relief from fossil fuel dependency. We need to move away from timber as a source of income, because it no longer is a source of income to our counties.
30 seconds.
Thank you. And those are some of the ideas that we'll be talking about as we move toward the toward arriving at real solutions to the recession.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
David?
So the question was, how are we going to reestablish businesses and keep things going, right?
Yeah, I'll repeat it again, okay? What steps will you take to ensure Oregonians who have been affected by the recent economic changes and layoffs will be able to find jobs and recover from what could be a potential recession?
Thank you. So we're already working on that. We have a situation, as I mentioned earlier, just to go back to that, giving a tax credit to our essential workers that has not appreciated the $900 a week in unemployment benefits that so many others had. We're pushing forward with CTE programs and training so that we can get folks retrained in the manufacturing and other technical areas outside of the hospitality industry. We've lost thousands of homes across Oregon. We don't have enough plumbers, electricians, and carpenters and builders to help with the recovery of those houses. And there's great opportunities for those folks to be retrained into those fields and continue on for years to come. We have situations where we need our wood supply. In fact, we need to resource and manage part of that burned wood supply so that we can keep our sticks local, so that we don't have to truck in sticks from Canada to rebuild those homes and so forth. And so we're going to need our mills working, and be able to pick up some of those mills ahead of.
I'm off the screen.
We have lots of opportunities to get those folks into a CT and more of a public works sector moving forward. But we also are still needing to work on our hospitality industry. And I'm the co-convener of the Oregon Coast Trail, for example, that was approved.
Time's up.
Thanks, Mary Jane.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kat Stone?
I would really like to see us get into a good, healthy apprenticeship program that really is suited to the needs of the community, because not every community is the same. But definitely, as Mr. Brocksmith was saying, we need to get our sticks local. We need to have mills. Josephine County doesn't even have any mills. I just want to say that. Why don't we have mills? Because everything's gone into the monopoly. And we really need people who can be plumbers and builders. And that is where we need to focus, is really get some money into that program so that we have a healthy economy and we can rebuild. But we need to focus on communities, because like I said, global isn't working for us. We need to get back to the independent spirit that Oregonians have. Oregonians can do, or Southwestern Oregonians, rural Oregonians, they want to be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, and we need to focus on communities.
Okay, thank you. Dallas?
Thank you. So for me, it's always been a question of how we can get government, frankly, out of the way of small business. I'm very much a proponent of small business. And to be honest, when I first came to the legislature back in 2015, I had very much a simplistic viewpoint of business. I always thought regulation always bad, business always good. I still think a lot of regulation is bad, but I've come to realize that most big business is frankly just not the friend of freedom in the middle class, and certainly the lower income classes who are trying to rise up. I very much started to take an oppositional stance to most big business interests within the legislative capital, because oftentimes the regulation that we are all dealing with is pushed through either direct or back channels of paid lobbyists who are promoting the interest of big business. And it's always amazing how they use the fist of government to shut down their medium and small business competition. And so whether it's COVID-related crises or just the ongoing dragging of our economy that we've experienced in rural Oregon, I'm very much a proponent of streamlining our regulations in a way that still protects our communities and our interests of environment, but start really promoting small business entrepreneurship that creates strong jobs, strong incomes, strong benefits, and strong communities. That's really what we got to do, is we got to simplify life.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is going to be for the county commissioner candidates for position number 2. And I will go ahead and have you first, Sue, start, and then John, have you answer that after Sue. And the question is, it would appear that COVID-19 is going to be a strong influence on our interpersonal interactions for the foreseeable future. How should the county proceed to continue to safeguard the residents as well as visitors to this county? Please note that a viable vaccine or vaccines are not likely to appear until mid to late 2021 at the earliest.
Well, I would say that we need to keep in mind the OHA regulations and CDC regulations and proceed in a very cautious manner. This disease is not a respecter of persons. It can affect anybody, as we've well seen. We only have 33 cases presently in Curry County, but that could change. So I would say follow the guidelines of the CDC, OHA, and those guidelines that the governor has set forth.
Okay, thank you. John?
Yes, I believe the same. We have to follow the guidelines that our governor has set, and I think it would behoove us to accentuate the positive a little bit. I know the negative is so prevalent with, not incubators, but ventilators and people dying. I think had heard a great testimony Sunday at church about a man in our church who's 70-some years old. His mom is 94, I believe, who contracted COVID. She lives in Southern California in assisted living, was isolated, went through it all, and came out and back in general population and came through it. So just, I don't want a big negative Nelly. I want to say we got to beware and be prudent and cautious, but also we got to accentuate the positive, not just the negative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So the next question I have is going to be for the Curry County Clerk Recorder. And Renee, I will have you go first. And then Emma, you could be second. And the question is, what have you done to date, and how do you intend to combat voter suppression as it affects the county clerk's position?
Thank you, Georgia. Like I said in my introduction, we work real hard in our office and for the county to make voting accessible, to make voting transparent. We are proud of our voter registration records, our voter turnout records. Often Curry County was in the top 5 of voter turnout. We are proud of the ability and availability for voters to get registered, and for the work that we all do for outreach with the state Secretary of State's office, and working with the ability to make it as easy as possible for folks to get registered, come into our office, feel comfortable. We are very, very passionate about making that process as simple and as easy for our voters to participate, not only just register, but to vote.
Okay, thank you. Emma?
Yeah, so while working with the state of Oregon, it was a requirement to ask about voter registration, make sure people had the ability to register to vote if they wanted to through the office. We would collect that data and get it over to the clerk's office. As a candidate, I have been very active on social media since the primaries. I have posted updates on how to register, where registration is accessible, during the election process, what the numbers were looking like as they were coming in. For us here in Oregon, we have the opportunity to look at votes as they're coming in, since they're coming by mail. So Secretary of State is constantly updating. We can see what the turnout's looking like. People can talk to each other about who's voting, what their interests are. I've tried to be very active in answering questions, helping people get to the right resources to check their registration, make sure they're registered. With COVID being a thing, a lot of new residents were not automatically registered through the DMV process that some of us were able to take advantage of. So just reminding people that they needed to go check and make sure that their registration was active and how they could go about registering if not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question is for the Curry County Treasurer candidates. And I'll go ahead and have you start first, Elizabeth, and then I'll have Terry answer. And the first question, you both touched on it, is what makes you qualified to run for county treasurer?
Okay, so well, I've been a bookkeeper for 35 years. I started out at a CPA firm at age 15, and I was actually, by the end of that first tax season, I was managing the office at age 15, which was just crazy. From there, I went on to do other bookkeeping jobs over the years. I spent 10 years working for that CPA. I did 7 years for a restaurant group. There was 6 restaurants in the group that I managed as a bookkeeper. And then more recently, I did 11 years for a staffing agency where I did all their payroll for them. And I've worked for this property management company for 15 years now, taking care of all their books and reports and financials. I have gone to school for accounting. I have taken H&R Block tax courses. I know when deadlines are due, and I have never missed a deadline, a tax filing or anything like that, because it's too important. I want to make sure that Curry County's monies are being invested properly for our future. And part of that is looking into short-term investments, because we need to have access to that money in these trying times. So I would look along the lines of something along like a year-long CD that would grant us a little bit more income, because we have to think smart right now with everything going on with COVID. I'm not sure how much time I had left, but.
Thank you. Okay, Terry.
Well, obviously, I don't have the experience that Elizabeth has, but having been in business myself for quite a few years, running my own construction business, building, remodeling, and repairs, I was my own bookkeeper. I've been my own bookkeeper for several of the properties that my wife and I have managed over the years, managed properties that we have now. So keeping books is something you do if you're in business. And I've always done my own, and I don't have a problem doing it. As far as the county treasurer's position goes, the county does have money that comes in. The treasurer manages that money, makes investments either through the state investment pool or other decisions the treasurer might make. And I think that I can do the job just about as well, because I have enough experience as a bookkeeper and taking care of my own books and property management and my own business that I think I can do the job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go back to the state candidates, and I was going to go ahead and start with Kat, but I don't see, I see her coming back. Kat Stone, are you there? Okay, thank you. I'm going to have you start, Kat, with this question. Then Dallas, I'm going to have you answer it next. And then we're going to have Kala and then David Brock-Smith. So we're doing a rotating order here. So the question is, if elected, what will be your personal priorities for the 2021 session? What legislative committees would you like to serve on and why?
I would like to serve on the water committee. I would like to protect our watersheds. And I would like to educate people on what really happened in the 90s, because people are not the same senators and the same people that were there when it happened. Very few of the people have been there 30 years. So they need to be educated on that. I have a team of 4 economists that can go through the whole history and all the science and all of the numbers. So that is my priority, is working on reinstating the harvest severance privilege tax on foreign ownership of lands over 5,000 acres.
Okay, thank you. Dallas?
Yes, thank you. So currently I sit on 6 different committees, and it's a bit of a heavy workload, frankly. I'm not necessarily looking to stay on Ways and Means, even though that is a highly influential community or a committee, just because I don't necessarily think it fits me with the current environment that's going on there. I love the Education Committee. I'd love to continue to serve on that because I'm passionate about our children's K-12 education in particular. I want to see parents have the full right and authority to choose where their tax dollars go and follow their children. I personally don't care whether it's a parent in Portland who's extremely liberal and different than me in those viewpoints, or someone in rural Oregon who's very conservative. It doesn't matter to me where they want to send their children. It could be a very liberal institution, private or public, or a very conservative one, or somewhere in the middle. I want parents to be able to make that choice. I really want to be able to empower those parents and those children in that sense. The environmental committees are always fascinating to me, and I'd love to be on that. I have a passion for a clean environment, although I take a very different approach than a cap and trade approach. But I'm very passionate about solar power, electric cars, efficiency. I practice that in my own life. Same with the Transportation Committee. If our transportation system was fixed where we got rid of the bottlenecks on the bridges in the Portland community, you would see a significant reduction both in smog pollution and weights on the road, and an environment or an economic uptick. So it kind of answers, I think, the first part of the question. Those would be my priorities. Those would be the committees of some interest.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kala?
Well, as a freshman representative, the committees that I might be able to serve on might be limited by someone else deciding I would serve on them or not. But I would be very interested in serving on both the Environmental Committee and the Transportation Committee because they're incredibly linked. The infrastructure rebuilding that will be coming to pass under the Oregon Green New Deal will in fact affect us in every area, and every committee will be working on bringing the infrastructure into the 21st century. We have water systems that are not destroyed, but not working. 2 of them in Curry County, one in Port Orford, where Brock-Smith lives, and one in Harbor, which is closer to me. We have infrastructure in our ports that need to be addressed. Any of the committees that are involved in that would be very interesting to serve on. Basically, whichever committee needs my work, that's where I'll serve. but I'm very interested in environmental committee work, as I'm currently the chair of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Oregon, and I'm working very diligently in considering other approaches besides cap and trade to address the climate crisis, which will be a dual approach to bring the recession under control as the climate crisis is addressed.
Okay, thank you. David?
Thank you, Georgia. So priorities next session are to continue the work on the affordable workforce housing. I drafted and passed a bill that in 17, my freshman year, that gives tax incentives for multifamily workforce housing that's constructed. I also want to, again, priority is getting the tax credit to the essential workers that have been bagging our groceries and pumping our gas and so forth throughout this COVID pandemic. I want to work on the Portland EV electric vehicle transition and charging infrastructure legislation that I drafted in the 20 session, and we moved it out of committee, where we can actually help transition, especially lower income families, out of the 1980 whatever gas guzzling rigs that they have in the Portland metro area to affordable electric vehicles, thus reducing the emissions in the most concentrated areas where the air quality is the worst with regards to emissions. The committees that I sit on, I want to continue to sit on. I'm on the Ag and Natural Resource, Ag and Land Use Committee. We passed the first ag ditch bill, which was fantastic for our farmers and ranchers that I was on a work group, bipartisan work group on. The Energy Environment Committee and the Natural Resources Committee, and hopefully back on, because I had to get off because of scheduling issues, back on the Ways and Means sub for the natural resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to again ask a question for the state candidates, and starting with the representatives. David, I'm going to put you on first, then we're going to go with Kala, and then we're going to go with Dallas, and then we're going to go back to Kat. So the question is veteran care. What will you do in working with the federal government to ensure our veterans receive the care and housing they need? This includes the lack of home health care. David?
Thank you so much. This has been a passion of mine. Georgia and Mary Jane, of course, know my father, Dallas, my father, 27-year veteran, Navy, retired Lieutenant Commander Mustang, dealing with dementia. And that's something that we have been talking about because my mother, of course, and I am providing care for him as we speak. Dallas can speak better, but we have regular meetings with the director of the Veterans Home over in Roseburg annually. We want to make sure that we continue to make sure that our folks down in Brookings Harbor can have the access to that veterans and those veteran home services and make sure that they're funded. And I have long advocated, and we actually pushed back on the governor's proposed budget for the last session on cutting funding for the veterans in Oregon, and made sure that it was increased. And we actually, because the voters passed a law that they wanted a minimum amount of, if I remember correctly, a minimum amount of funding to the veterans resources, and the governor did not fund that in her proposed budget. So we need to make sure that they also have access in affordable housing, which ties into the construction tax credit that I'm working on and that was already passed, as well as the CTE programs, so that we can get people out there that can build them, because that's what we need. We don't have a lot of, the good Lord doesn't really have a lot of more property on the coast, but we need to make it affordable for our veterans, and we need to incentivize it and through rebates and discounts for those services.
Thank you. Okay, Kala.
Okay, veterans need home health care, and so do the residents of the coastal counties. The southernmost county, Curry, which is in this district, is largely a retirement county. So that means that more than 55% of our population is over 55. The home health care has several issues in it besides besides serving veterans in our community. veterans can't get it because it's not existing here. This population to serve as home health care providers needs to be trained, needs to be properly supported. We need wage and hour rules in place so that they're properly compensated. This is a very complex wage and hour issue in home health care currently, and that home health care providers cannot predict their scheduling. Many of them have multiple jobs or work odd hours because that's when home health care needs to happen. So to address the issue of home health care with veterans, we need to address the home health care for the entire population of our district. Housing is a separate issue, and I don't have time to address it in this question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kat?
As a registered nurse, working with home care agencies, I have seen how poorly the Veterans Administration administers hours for people who really are in need. And I would say that a greater part of that effort has to come from pressure from the legislature to the federal government, because it really is not good care. And I have seen people, because I was a trainer for the Home Care Commission, I have heard the stories of people that are not ambulatory, but still live at home. And they have someone come get them up in the morning, clean them up, put them in a recliner, give them a breakfast and a lunch, and then they don't come back until 6:30 in the evening to clean them up and reverse the process and put them back to bed. And these people, it's the only interaction that they have all day because they choose to remain in their homes. And we need to have better support for that. And somebody needs to be talking to the federal government about that. Maybe we shouldn't have a space force. Maybe we should really focus on the people who gave everything or who offered to write the check. They are really people that need to be supported. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Dallas?
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So currently I sit on the Senate Veterans Committee, so that's a real blessing and honor to be a part of that committee, and I hope to remain on that committee in the coming session if I am reelected. Specifically, I would speak to what we can do directly from a state impact. Oftentimes, our advocacy falls on deaf ears with the federal government, not necessarily with our local folks that are running our local VA here in Southwest Oregon, but especially with the federal delegation. It's just a difficult reach to really get a high impact team going there as far as the connection between us and state. But one of the things we've been working on at the state level is getting our allied health college established in Southwest Oregon. That's a major step in the right direction. You have to have the professionally trained folks to actually provide the medical service, whether they're going to go work at the VA directly or at Mercy Hospital or at the Curry County Health Network or up at the Coos Bay Regions Medical Center. Those are important steps that we have to make in the right direction. It provides economic opportunities for veterans and other individuals to go become trained there, get jobs in the medical field. We're really needing to pivot towards a grow our own model. We're having a real tough time with individuals, especially from my generation as a millennial, being born here, going to school here, graduating from high school, and then leaving us and never coming back. So the Allied Health College, we were able to, through Representative Brocksmith and Gary Leaf and myself, we were able to secure $10+ million in state lottery bonds to go towards that project. Obviously, the COVID situation with the governor's executive orders put a stop to the lottery machines, and so that funding is very much in doubt. But I still have hope for that facility regardless.
Okay, thank you. All right, now the questions are for the county commissioner candidates. And why don't we go ahead and have you start, John, and then Sue can answer. And the question is, how do you seek points of view from your constituents that may differ from yours or the usual groups that you talk to?
Could you repeat that, please, Georgia? I'm sorry.
Sure.
How do I?
That's
Okay.
How do you seek points of view from your constituents that may differ from yours or the usual groups that you talk to?
Oh, I guess I'm just a knothead because I don't, how do I seek
How do you seek points of view?
you that are different than mine?
Yes, from your constituents that may differ from your viewpoint, and or the usual groups that you talked with.
Well, everybody has a voice. I believe that, and they are all not going to be the same voice that I have or same thoughts and ideas. So I would listen with respect and you know, surely just take in everybody's opinion and realize that everybody has a voice and ready to listen and move forward with the board's direction. But everybody has a voice. I believe in respectability and manners and yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry, that was a tough one. Thanks.
Okay, Sue, would you like me to repeat it, or are you?
No, I'm pretty well there. I would have to say, as being a commissioner, I have heard all points of view. Some people are adamantly opposed to things, and other individuals are for the whatever. But my thing is, I think all points of view need to be researched very carefully. And I do this before I go to meetings, looking at all sides of an issue, and then vote on it in the best interest of the citizens of the Curry County. And I firmly believe that all sides need to be listened to. And I guess as a school teacher, I've had to do that for years. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, question is for the county clerk and recorder, I'm sorry, candidates. And the question is, the county clerk has many responsibilities. In your opinion, what duty or duties have the highest priority? And we'll start with you, Emma, first, and then Renee.
Sure. So yes, the county clerk does have many responsibilities, and prioritization would have to be based on what exactly is going on in the given moment. Right now is election season. That puts a pretty high emphasis on what exactly is going on with the election side of things. Throughout the year, there is emphasis on making sure that recordings are done properly. Should be emphasis, you know, the clerk's office does Maryland. Ms. Cullen has said, I'm sure that there's probably a tie, if you look at the data, to our tourist season and having more marriage ceremonies taking place in certain seasons throughout the year. Prioritization, as with any job, is a constantly flowing requirement, and you have to be able to reprioritize as you go to make sure that all of the requirements are being fit at any given time.
Okay, thank you. Renee?
So the county, like I said earlier, the county clerk's is responsible for two separate divisions that have total different disciplines. The recording office and the elections office have very little in common. Both divisions have a tremendous amount of functionality and responsibility. In the county recording division, our priority is making sure that we record your deed properly, that we make sure that we index your names properly so we don't cloud title. In the mortgage index, you have to make sure that you're putting in the data sets that are exactly what you're seeing so that you, again, don't cloud title or cause problems for our citizens. We also have to make sure that the records for the death certificates for our marriage licenses are accurate. So efficiencies, productivity are a tremendous responsibility. The elections office not only produces the ballots, maintains the voter registration databases. We have to work with special districts. We're responsible for making sure that we are accommodating and servicing our special districts. So the ORSs in 205, the ORSs in 240 to 260 dictate to us all the mandates that we're responsible, and they are all very important, and they all have a high priority.
Okay, thank you. Right. Now, the question is for the Curry County Treasurer. And can we go ahead and have you, Terry, first, and then Elizabeth? And the question is, the Curry County Treasurer invests funds on a daily basis for the county. What guiding principles are used for fund investment?
Guiding principles to me would be making sure that the funds are put somewhere where they are secure, whether it's the state investment pool. Not all taxing districts in Curry County that receive funds, taxpayer dollars, etc., have the county treasurer handle those funds for them. Some of them have gone to where they're doing their own investments. Obviously, with the interest rates and stuff down almost to 0, 1%, those types of issues, that's kind of a tough thing to get. So, obviously you want to try to get as much interest on the money you can and still have it available when you need it. And there used to be money markets and things like that were fairly reasonable, but most of that stuff has just about gone away now with the low interest rates that we have. So it's kind of a tough question. I would say that still we'd have to look at the state investment pool, because it seems to be doing as well or better than most anybody else at this moment in time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Elizabeth.
Yes, I would have to agree with Terry with the state investing pool might be the best option if it's a daily basis. It's kind of hard to say without seeing all the numbers in front of you. I'm kind of at a loss because without having numbers in front of you, it's really hard to answer that question. But it would have to be safe. It would have to be something safe that would do a good return on your investment. And honestly, I would have to have more data to answer it completely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're back to the state candidates, and we're going to go ahead and start with, let's see. Calla, I'll have you start, and then David, and then Dallas, and then Kat. So the question is, how will you protect our community from the health impacts of climate change?
How will you protect our what community?
Our community from the health impacts
of climate change? Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't separate our response to the climate crisis from social justice responsibilities. In each of our communities, there are people at greater risk for exposure to the chemicals that have been traditionally used in timber and other large agricultural processes. There are those are climate change causing chemicals. The impact of air quality is felt more ferociously by people who have breathing disabilities. Many of our veterans fall into that classification. Also, people of color communities, and in our particular district, those communities would be indigenous communities. So those communities are more greatly affected by the effects of the climate crisis. We have not suffered in our district this year. We have not suffered massive fires. So except in some parts of, in HD1, SD1 has. In Jefferson County, and how we would go about protecting the residents of our communities will depend on the residents of our communities themselves. What processes and strategies we put in place to help them become protected include moving away from fossil fuel, moving into community solar, moving into small manufacturing, away from large business.
Okay, thank you. David.
Thank you, Georgia. So I had the honor to serve as the vice chair of the Joint Committee on Carbon Reduction, appointed by the Speaker in the 2019 session. One of the things that we did in the 2018 session, as I got together with my colleague, Representative Bonham, and we drafted and passed with bipartisan support, of course, the Good Neighbor Authority bill, which stemmed out of the Chetco bar fire for our folks in South County, and the fact that we need to protect and manage the resources, especially within the urban wildland interface. And so I was grateful after a lot of work that you don't read in the newspaper that just last week, the E-Board put $1.8 million in the Good Neighbor Authority agreement. Meanwhile, before it only had 500,000 bucks. And so that we can start doing the treatment that's necessary within the urban and wildland interface and protecting homes, and really moving forward with managing the natural resource so that we can mitigate the forest ladder fuels. I worked in the 18 session also after the Chetco bar fire to increase the amount of smoke days that we have so that we can do that prescribed burning that's necessary to mitigate catastrophic wildfires within the area. But really what it comes down to, the health impacts, what we can do as a state is for reducing our carbon emissions is to look at the EV bill that I have, because the transportation sector is the largest portion of that transportation sector, and those emissions come from Portland, the metro area, and my bill is prescribed to deal with that directly. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, go ahead, Dallas.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So it's kind of amazing as I get older how I start to see things a little more fully and a little different. Oftentimes, the solution to something is not necessarily a direct approach, interestingly enough. If the goal is to clean up the air, if the goal is to reduce carbon emissions here in our own backyard or in our own footprint, you actually have to have a robust enough economy oftentimes for your communities, your individuals within your society to actually be able to afford new technologies and adopt those new technologies, whether it be solar technology, wind, micro hydro for people who have the adequate water resources within reach, but especially electrification of cars, the network that has to go in. You actually have to be able to afford buying a Tesla, afford buying a Nissan Leaf. Simply having the government hand out massive amounts of tax credits and whatnot will not always get the job done. A lot of times people don't even know that those incentives are available. So for me, you have to start managing the forest, like the representative said, because managing the forest, as someone who's born and raised in this community, I've worked out in the woods on erosion control contracting jobs. I've seen the woods go from very well managed back in my youth to exceptionally poor now, to where we're not replanting, we're not salvage logging when massive fires go through, which create lots of carbon, lots of pollution. So we need to get back in the woods, manage them properly, sustainable yield harvest, replant, have healthy forests for healthy animals, healthy air, healthy economies, which will then give us the jobs and the economy necessary to actually be able to afford as individuals in the working class and middle class to actually adopt electrification and improving technologies to clean up our environment.
Okay, thank you. Kat?
I think that people need to really understand the difference between a forest and a plantation. Our forests are actually fire hardened for centuries, and our plantations are tinderboxes that are just going to endanger our forest. When they decided to plant 10 trees for every one they took out of the forest, it created a disaster. It is a disastrous experiment that has lasted for 40 years. When you drive down the freeway and they have cleared that right of way, and you see what a plantation looks like. You see those dry little tiny sticks, and that's what those plantations are underneath. So in order to manage our forests, we just need to manage our plantations, number one. We need to make private timber and foreign-owned timber, we need to make it responsible to the communities where they are. Perhaps we should take away their right to operate in Oregon. We have no foreign ownership of our lands in Oregon, and these lands used to be public lands. And maybe we need to get them back on the tax rolls, because that's the problem with them right now, is they have no real presence in our communities that is fruitful. They don't pay property tax, they don't pay harvest tax, and they pay no state or federal tax. We need to get in there and thin the plantations And we could make 250 jobs in Curry County alone doing that.
Thank you. Okay. This next question, again, for the state candidates, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Dallas, and then Kat, and then we'll go with Kala, and then we'll end with David Brock Smith. And it's a rather long question, and there's a lot of information, so I will read it. And if you'd like me to read it again, I can. Would you favor relaxing early learning division regulations for licensed out-of-school time childcare and recorded youth programs provided by community-based organizations like YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs? This could involve providing an Oregon Department of Education waiver so that they could operate using a K through 12 age-appropriate activities and safety guidelines rather than being regulated as early learning, which is 0 to 5 years, centers as they currently are.
Ms. Nolan, I'm going to ask you to repeat the initial first part of the question, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
that I'm actually going to have an answer for this, but let's give it another crack.
Sure. And I think it was a little bit of editorializing on the second half. So I will go ahead and repeat the question. Would you favor relaxing early learning division regulations for licensed out-of-school time childcare and recorded youth programs provided by community-based organizations like YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs?
So regrettably, I don't know enough about this issue and the terminology that is being used by the person asking the question. So respectfully, I'm just going to have to refrain from answering because I don't want to give an answer not knowing for sure what I'm speaking about.
Okay, thank you. Fair enough. Kat?
I'm perfectly willing to address an issue that I don't have very much information on. I think that it's most likely a good idea because you want kids to have activities, and I believe that the Y is very active. We need outdoor type schooling during this pandemic, and I think that there's a lot of government restrictions on things that really don't make sense. So that's my answer, addressing something that isn't something in my purview particularly. I don't have grandchildren and my children are all grown, but I definitely am supportive of alternative schooling.
Okay, thank you. Kala?
My grandchild is too young to be, grandchild who lives in Oregon is too young to be affected by this system yet. But for people whose children are affected, I have a concern in the generic, in the general expression of the question, in that which regulations they're talking about would be, I would have to know which regulations they're talking about. If they're simply talking about allowing the same facilities to furnish out-of-school care for children who are older than 5, I would have to know very much how that would be approached, because mingling children 5 and younger with children older than 5, as any school teacher, I come from a long line of school teachers, as any school teacher will tell you, is a management issue, and it's a management issue for the safety of the children. In COVID times, in pandemic times, it would be even more of an issue. So I'm not sure, I can't really answer this without understanding which regulations they're talking about relaxing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, David, want to take a crack at it?
Yes, Georgia, thank you. And it is a long question, so I won't have you repeat it, but the answer is yes on both accounts. And we're already working on it. The legislature allocated over $30 million recently in an e-board for childcare. Childcare is a huge problem. I know many mothers that are having to quit their jobs just to stay home with their kids. And so we need to relax the regulations under early childhood. But the problem that I'm finding, because I'm trying to access those dollars now for the district, is the locations for those individuals to have those children present. And if we were to relax those restrictions that we're working on so that we can have those Beth childcare folks that are providing the childcare that they are now in a larger and safer environment, such as a YMCA or such as I'm actually looking into the schools right now, considering that the schools don't have kids in them. If we can bring them into that environment themselves and still get the resources from the I think it was $38 million that was allocated by the E-Board to bring in to help pay for those, it would also increase the jobs that we need in that sector as well. So we are working on this issue currently. Appreciate the question, because I can't tell you how many emails I get. What can I do about childcare? I have to quit my job, and it's just sad that we're moving forward. And then they're not eligible for unemployment because of the situation. So I'm hopeful that we're going to have something within the next month or so to be able to talk about where we can get some substantial dollars if we can just find the location, and we're working on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, the question now is for the county commissioner candidates, and we'll go ahead and have you start, Sue, and then John, you can answer this. And the question is, what is your stance on logging and fishing in Curry County, and your plan to keep more jobs, or I'm sorry, to bring more jobs to Curry County?
I would say as long as logging and fishing is done in a sustainable manner so that we can continue having the logs and continue having the fishing, this is sustainable, responsible manner, then that's a great idea. I also think our county is so beautiful that we could have ecotourism here and get numerous tourists here to do so. And that's one of the reasons I'm advocating expanding our county parks. Because, for instance, Boyce Culp Park is just a beautiful area, and getting these tourists to be able to see some of these beautiful, pristine areas in our county would be a great thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John?
Okay, I think I pressed the right button. Yes, I'm a huge proponent of logging and fishing, and the mills, and graduated from here in 1975, went to work for South Coast Lumber on the planer chain, and then as a carpenter. And so it's good to see, even in Brookings, we see those lumber trucks go from the mill to Gold Beach Lumber and dropping off the finished product. So but I do agree with Dallas. We have to do it responsibly and professionally. And then the fishing industry, it saddens me when I think about it, because growing up here, it's just, it was fishing and logging, pretty much everything, and the regulations, and not a lot of them terrible, but we don't want to handcuff our fishermen with too many regulations. And I know that's probably not a county way to, we're not gonna, we can do that. The county doesn't regulate them as much as the state and federal do, but if we can be of any assistance to those folks, it would be fantastic. And I agree with Sue as far as the county parks. You can't find a RV park right now that you can get into, especially state-run RV parks. So even in this pandemic and COVID era, parks are busy, and so you can't find RVs. So that would be an opportunity to expand those parks. And
Thank you, John.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay, so the next question is going to be for the county clerk recorder position. And the question is, and I will go ahead and start with you, Renee, is how is the new digital research room working out? Are there any changes or improvements needed?
Thank you for asking that. We are very proud that we were able to put our indexes for our land records. So folks that want to research your deed, your mortgage, or your liens, you can now just go online and access. That way you're able to research what documents that you need. It provides an instrument number for that document image, and you simply call us up or email us and we can get you a copy of your document that you're looking for. The public seems extremely happy with it. We get lots of compliments on it. They're very thankful that we have it. We're also getting ready to deploy our online marriage license application. So we're moving forward with our technologies, again, to provide better access for our citizens who use our services.
Okay, great. Okay, Emma.
So yeah, I have personally interacted with the digital research room, and I do think that it is a very useful tool for members of the county to be able to independently look up instrument numbers and then go to the clerk's office and pull the documentation that they're looking for. So I'm very glad to have that incorporated, and the marriage certificate being online is something that's been offered from many, or the application being given online has been very active with the other county clerks for some time. So I'm glad to see that. I would also like to see the implementation of electronic signatures being authenticated through the office with the passage of e-sign and various laws that allow for electronic signatures to be verified and held to the same standard as a handwritten signature. I think that is something that the clerk's office should be looking towards, and that would be very beneficial to the community.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, now the question here is for the Curry County treasurers. And I'll go ahead and have you start, Elizabeth, and then Terry answer after you that. The question is, this position involves working with software and investing county dollars. Please share with us your experience with technology and experience in investments.
Okay, so my experience in technology is actually very extensive, because when I was a child, we had one of the first home computers, and it was a TRS M80 from Radio Shack, and you had to do your own programming on it. My mom was an enrolled agent and bookkeeper. She's retired now, and she trained me from a very early age on how to use different programs and stuff going through the years. So I've used just about every accounting software out there, and if I haven't, I can learn it quickly. As for investment, it's the same thing. I have worked with so many firms over the years doing investments and financial stuff. It's just second nature to me at this point. So thank you.
Okay, Terry?
Almost forgot to turn off the mute button. Working with computers, granted, with my age, I'm a little bit slower than I'm sure Elizabeth is with computers, since she's quite a bit younger. But I like to joke, if I get in trouble, I have grandchildren from 9 to 25 that know what they're doing, and they have no problem at all getting me involved. However, I work with a computer every day now in my part-time job that I have. I have a computer here that I work at home. As far as investing, I have invested and managed personal stock portfolios for my mother and myself for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we are back to the state candidates, and let's go ahead and start with you, David, and then after you we'll have Kala, and then we'll go ahead and have Kat, and then Dallas. So the question is, how will you ensure that you represent all constituents and not solely your party's base?
Well, I currently do. So I was the chief sponsor for an oil and gas moratorium bill that we passed in the legislature a few years ago that stopped in 19 to stop not only any oil and gas exploration off of the coast of Oregon. We only own 3 miles of water off the coast. And so Democrats in the legislature often seek me out to co-sponsor their bills because they want a Republican on the bill so that they can move it through the building. So it just isn't a one-sided thing. And, you know, the Coastal Caucus is a bipartisan, bicameral caucus that we work on consensus. I often work across the aisle. In the Ag Ditch Bill, we had a work group where it was Rep. Susan McLean on the other side, and we worked through efforts. I sponsored a bill with Rep. Rob Nose that pushed back against Big Pharma. You know, I work across the aisle all the time. There are certain issues that I feel are extreme, and I push back that are going to hurt my constituents, such as cap and trade. I offered the Republican amendment for cap and trade that looked at the carbon sequestration benefits for Oregon and the Dash A60s, whoever wants to look them up, and presented them in the Ways and Means Committee. And go to my YouTube channel and watch the video. On the Dash 60s, where we look at the benefits of our carbon sequestration benefits, and then for larger emitting states like Wyoming, for example, they would buy those credits from us, and we can be carbon zero.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Cullen, you're on mute.
Please repeat the question.
The question is, how will you ensure that you represent all constituents and not solely your party's base?
I will hold town halls in every city that is incorporated in our district every year. And I will try to hold one in every city that's incorporated in this district between every session. These gentlemen who have been telling us all about how they work, Mr. Hurd was absent 2 years in a row, and Mr. David Brock Smith was absent entirely from all of his work, including committee work during the last session in 2020. So unlike these gentlemen, I will seek out my constituents. We've never seen Mr. Hurd in Curry County since he was elected, since he was appointed, actually. We've never seen him in a town hall. We've seen Mr. Brock Smith once. I think that legislators should be accessible to their public. We are all accessible somewhat on social media. We need to have a private life also, which is difficult in social media land, as we all know. But we need to have regular meetings with all members of the public in open town halls where all people are invited, whether those town halls are in person or by video or both. And they need to be regularly scheduled, announced, and attended by legislators. Every legislator in the state offices should be doing the same thing that our federal legislators are doing, which is seek out your constituents, ask them how they feel about things. If they have opinions different from yours, I'm sure they'll tell me.
Okay, thank you. Kat.
What Calla said. Also, I don't fit the typical mold. I was not a political person until 5 or 6 years ago. I had no clue that I had friends for all my life that were Republican. I never knew they were Republican, and I get along with Republicans just fine. I have to work with Republicans and independents and libertarians. I was elected to the Public Transportation District Board of Directors, and a good portion of those people are from a political party that isn't mine. But even my own political party doesn't agree with me all the time. I am a strong Second Amendment defender, and I enjoy shooting guns. That doesn't go over so well with the rest of the Democratic Party, and you won't see them really flocking to my side. But I do listen to everyone. And what Calla said about having town halls, at least in every community once a year, I would definitely do that.
Thank you. Dallas.
Representative Brock Smith is extremely modest. The reason many of the Democratic members of the House and Senate seek his co-sponsorship on bills is because, frankly, he is the best member of the legislature at legislating. The man is an incredible workhorse. He never stops working. I'm not one to defend myself. That's not how I've been raised, but someone that I find to be an extremely amazing public servant. It frustrates me to continue to hear baseless attacks. The man is the best at what he does. That's why he's extremely popular in the legislature, regardless of party. As far as for myself, party honestly makes no difference to me when it comes to my constituents. I'm a registered Republican, but I'm a libertarian by philosophy. And so I'm not the biggest party guy. Yeah, I've chose that vehicle as a Republican to run for elected office. But when it comes to defending people's freedoms and rights, that applies to everyone. Parties are irrelevant. And frankly, that needs to be a more dominant viewpoint within our political system. When it comes to defending people's rights, you're almost universally going to be defending a political minority of every size and shape. And that's what I do. Last time I checked, we're in the middle of a super minority, both House and Senate in this state. I was not yet born the last time we elected a Republican to the governor's position. So it's very frustrating to hear attacks that make it sound like we are extremely partisan. No, we are defending with everything we have those that have almost no representation in Salem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this question is actually
Georgia, may I break in here for a quick second?
Sure.
It is now 5 minutes to 8. We started 10 minutes late, so I'd like to ask the candidates whether they have a hard stop at 8 p.m. or if they'd like to go to 8:10.
Well, I was going to go ahead and ask just one last question, and I
Okay.
think that should sum it up for everybody.
8:30.
Okay? What was this, David?
Let's go to 8:30. I'm good.
Oh gosh, well, I can touch on why.
I got the
Party
point.
man. No, we'll go ahead and finish up with this one question. And actually, this question is actually for Calla Felicity and for her to respond to. And as your opponent, David, you can also respond to it if you wish. Okay. So the question is for Calla, how do you plan on being a fair representative of the district you are running in when you are unable to take part in an honest civil discourse with those you disagree?
I don't know what kind of question that is, because I am taking part in honest civil discourse as we speak. So I'm not certain what the aim of that question is. I have taken part in honest civil discourse in many forums in this district, and I will continue to do so.
Okay, right. David, did you want to respond to that?
I do, Georgia. You know, it's appalling to me that my opponent is using her candidacy as a platform for her political movement, if you will, especially calling anyone who doesn't agree with her and might be a Republican a white supremacist on her Facebook page. There's a lot of work that I do behind the scenes, and I haven't put this out yet, but I have a district, and Dallas has a young student in our district that advocated for the removal of the Confederate flag, the nooses, and the swastikas from all schools in Oregon. I've been working for the last 3 months to make that happen, and the Oregon State School Board did it. And we wanted to keep it non-political. We wanted to protect the student from any retaliation that occurred. And so when I read this filth, this hate from my opponent, it's rather disconcerting, especially considering how are you going to represent all the constituents if you call half or more than half in our district white supremacists. And so I will continue to work bipartisanly, and I appreciate the senator's good, kind words across the aisle. I will continue to fight hate wherever it may be. Right now and tonight, it's with my opponent. And I will continue to support the equality within our school system as I've done. And I'm so glad that we're moving forward and taking those awful symbols of hate out of our schools so that we can go back to learning.
Okay, great. Thank you. I am going to ask one more question and end it on a little bit lighter note, and it's for the county commissioners, and actually it's for you, John Herzog. And the question is, What do you find admirable about Sue Gold's tenure as county commissioner?
Can you hear, can you see me?
Nope.
Okay. Start video.
There you are.
Yeah, okay. Say it again now. I've pressing
Okay.
buttons and
The question for you is, what do you find admirable about Sue Gold's tenure as county commissioner?
well, I promised myself I would not sling any mud, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not a mudslinger. So what do I find admirable about Sue? Is she's passionate about her what she does, and she's done 4 years, and I think she should just take a break and let me take over from here.
Okay. Well, I do have a question for Sue as well. So, and it's a little off because, and we screen for duplications. So we don't necessarily screen for accuracy, Sue. So the question for you is, what do you find admirable about John Herzog's tenure on Brookings City Council?
To be quite honest with you, I haven't followed his tenure on the city council. I guess I've heard a few things, but I can't really judge because I haven't followed what he's been doing.
John, were you on city council?
No, John has been a longtime member of the Coos Curry Electric Board.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to double check, but I thought that was an odd question, but I thought I'd throw it out anyway and keep
Go
things a little
Beacon.
bit lighter.
Log in.
Yeah, I know, John, you've been on Coos Curry Electric for many years. So I don't know if, Sue, you haven't followed that, and that's a little different spin on things. But anyway, I think it's been a long evening. I really appreciate you all being here for the first virtual candidate forum for the League of Women Voters. So I am going to go ahead and close this down and say this completes tonight's Zoom candidate forum. As mentioned earlier, the candidate forum recordings will be available on channel 182, currycountyvoices.com, lwvcurry.org, lwvor.org, and vote411.org via YouTube. Thanks to those organizations for making them available. And the League thanks you, the candidates, for participating, and to you, the viewers, for watching and learning about your candidates. Good night, and thank you again.